Amina, a single mother, stands outside a small grocery store, clutching a worn-out bag. Her tired eyes are filled with worry, and her shoulders slump under the weight of her struggles. She walks up to the storekeeper, hoping to buy some food on credit, but he turns her away. He says that she can no longer buy on credit, leaving her with no choice but to leave the store empty-handed. As she walks away, Amina's heart breaks. She knows that her daughter Lila is waiting for her at home, hungry and hopeful for food. Amina tries to stay strong, wiping away a tear, but the weight of her situation is too much to bear. Unbeknownst to Amina, a man watches her from a distance. He is a billionaire CEO, dressed simply in a black suit. His expression is calm and thoughtful as he notices Amina's silent desperation. He doesn't say anything, but there's something about her quiet struggle that makes him stop in his tracks. As Amina walks away, defeated, the man hesitates for a moment, his heart aching for her. He decides to follow her at a distance, not knowing what he will do, but feeling a strong urge to help. The billionaire CEO quietly follows Amina as she walks through the busy streets, his eyes focused on her every step. He watches her carefully as she makes her way to a nearby park. There, Amina sits down on a park bench, her shoulders slumped from the weight of her struggles. As she sits, her young daughter Lila runs up to her, her eyes bright and full of hope. "Did you get the food, Mama?" Lila asks, her voice filled with innocent excitement. She is so happy to see her mother, but her hope fades as Amina gently shakes her head. Amina tries to smile, but it's a forced smile that doesn't reach her eyes. "Not today, Habibi," she says softly, trying to comfort her daughter. "But don't worry, we'll figure something out." Lila, who is still too young to understand the full meaning of their situation, nods and sits down next to her mother. She looks up at Amina, not fully understanding the sadness in her mother's eyes, but trusting her words. Amina feels her heart breaking as she sees the hope in her daughter's face, knowing that she can't provide for her in this moment. She feels completely overwhelmed by the weight of it all. How much longer can she keep up this struggle? The pain of not being able to provide for Lila weighs heavily on her, and she feels like she's failing as a mother. Meanwhile, the CEO stands in the background watching the scene unfold. He feels a deep sympathy for Amina and her daughter. There's something about her quiet desperation that stirs something inside him, and he can't just walk away. He's seen his fair share of struggles in life, but something about this moment touches him deeply. Without a word, he turns and walks back toward the grocery store. The storekeeper, who had turned Amina away earlier, is finishing up his work for the night. The CEO approaches him calmly, his voice steady but firm. "I'd like to pay for whatever that woman was trying to buy earlier," he says quietly. The storekeeper raises an eyebrow but doesn't argue. He rings up the groceries, handing the CEO the receipt. The CEO doesn't hesitate. He takes the 2 large bags of groceries and leaves the store, walking back toward the park. When he arrives at the park, he sees Amina still sitting on the bench with Lila. Gently, he sets the bags down in front of them. "These are for you," he says simply, his voice soft but sincere. Amina looks up in surprise, her eyes wide with shock. She can hardly believe what's happening. I can't accept this," she stammers, her voice trembling with disbelief. The CEO smiles gently and shakes his head. "Please," he says, "please take it for your daughter." Lila's eyes light up as she looks at the bags. "Mama, is this for us?" she asks with wonder in her voice. Amina's eyes fill with tears as she looks at the CEO, still in disbelief. "Why is this man helping them?" "Because it's Ramadan," the CEO says softly. "And everyone deserves a little kindness." Without waiting for another word, the CEO turns and walks away, disappearing into the crowd. Amina sits there, stunned, her heart full of gratitude but also confusion. Who was this man and why had he chosen to help them? That night, Amina felt a mix of emotions as she prepared iftar for herself and Lila. The bags of groceries from the CEO had filled her heart with gratitude. She cooked a simple meal with love, knowing that her daughter would have something to eat. But even as she cooked, Amina's mind couldn't shake the worries that still weighed on her heart. While the meal brought comfort for the evening, she wondered what would happen the next day. She had no stable income and the future seemed uncertain. How would she keep providing for Lila? The struggle felt endless. The next morning, Amina walked Lila to school, trying to focus on the positive and stay strong for her daughter. As they walked down the street, Amina heard the sound of a car pulling up beside them. She turned and froze in surprise. It was the same man, the CEO, from the day before. He smiled at her from behind the wheel and Lila immediately recognized him. "Hey, it's you," Lila exclaimed with excitement. She remembered him as the man who had helped them the night before. The CEO smiled and waved at Lila. "Good morning," he said kindly. "I was hoping I'd run into you again." Amina, still surprised but now a little curious, looked at him. Her protective instincts kicked in. She wasn't sure what to think of this sudden reappearance. But there was something in his calm and kind demeanor that made her feel at ease. After a moment of hesitation, Amina nodded. "Okay, we can talk," she said, a bit unsure. The CEO stepped out of the car and motioned for her to join him. He didn't seem to be in any rush and his expression was sincere. Amina felt a mix of curiosity and caution, but she decided to hear him out. "I want to help you," the CEO said, his voice soft but firm. "I know we don't know each other, but I've been thinking about your situation. I want to help you get back on your feet." Amina's eyes widened in surprise. "Why would you want to help me?" she asked, still unsure of his intentions. She barely knew him, but the kindness he had shown her the day before made her wonder if he truly meant what he said. "I've been in places where I felt lost and helpless," the CEO explained, his tone gentle. "When I saw you, I saw someone who just needs a little help to get back on their feet. I'm not asking for anything in return. I just want to make sure you and your daughter are okay." Amina's heart filled with emotion. She had never expected someone to offer help so selflessly. She wasn't sure what to say, but the sincerity in his voice made her feel a sense of hope she hadn't felt in a long time. Over the next few days, Amina felt a sense of hope she hadn't experienced in a long time. The CEO kept his word. He helped Amina find a part-time job at a local community center. The job offered flexible hours, which meant Amina could still take care of Lila. It was a perfect arrangement for her, and it gave her a sense of stability she desperately needed. In addition to the job, the CEO arranged for Lila to attend an after-school program at the same community center. Amina was grateful for everything he had done, but she couldn't help but wonder why he was so invested in helping her. Amina had always been independent and proud, and she had trouble accepting help from others. While she appreciated everything the CEO had done, she couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to his story. Why was he helping her when they didn't know each other? What was motivating him to go out of his way to make sure she and Lila had a better life? One afternoon, while Amina was at the community center, she overheard a conversation between two volunteers. They were talking quietly near the back, but Amina could hear every word. She decided to listen in, curiosity getting the better of her. "Did you hear about that guy who's been helping around here?" one of the volunteers asked. "The billionaire CEO?" "Yeah, I've heard he's been doing a lot of charity work lately," the other volunteer replied. "But did you know he's not just some random rich guy? He's got a personal connection to this place." Amina's heart skipped a beat. She stepped closer, trying not to be noticed. "What kind of connection?" the first volunteer asked. "Well, I don't know all the details," the second volunteer said, "but I heard he used to come here years ago. Something about his sister or his mom. That's why he's so involved now." Amina stood still, taking in the conversation. The CEO had a personal reason for being involved with the community center. It wasn't just about helping her, there was a deeper connection. Amina felt a mixture of surprise and understanding. Now things were starting to make sense. The CEO's desire to help wasn't just about kindness, it was about something more personal, something from his past that he wasn't ready to share. Amina couldn't help but feel even more grateful for the CEO's help, knowing now that his actions were driven by his own struggles and experiences. The CEO kept his promise, and Amina's life started to change for the better. He helped her secure a part-time job at a local community center, which allowed her to work flexible hours. This was a huge relief for Amina, as it meant she could still take care of her daughter, Lila. The job gave her a sense of purpose and hope for the future. To make things even better, the CEO arranged for Lila to attend an after-school program at the same center. Amina felt a growing sense of relief as she saw her daughter flourishing, and she was grateful for the support she had received. But even as Amina's life started to improve, she couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to the CEO's help. She wondered why he was so invested in her and her daughter's lives. They had only met a few days ago, and yet he was doing so much for them. Amina had always been independent, and accepting help wasn't easy for her. She felt both thankful and confused. Why was he so willing to help someone he barely knew? One day, while Amina was working at the community center, she overheard two volunteers talking in the corner. They were speaking in quiet voices, but Amina could hear them clearly. She hesitated, then decided to listen in, her curiosity getting the better of her. "Have you heard about the CEO who's been helping out around here?" one of the volunteers asked. "You know, the billionaire?" "Yes, I've heard," the other volunteer replied. "But what's really interesting is that he's not just a random rich guy. He actually has a personal connection to this place. Amina's heart skipped a beat. She leaned in a little closer, trying to hear more without being noticed. What do you mean? The first volunteer asked. Well, I don't know all the details, the second volunteer said, but I've heard that he used to come here years ago. Something about his sister or his mom. That's why he's so involved now. He's been helping people ever since. Amina felt a rush of understanding. The CEO's involvement with the community center wasn't just about being generous, it was personal. He had a past that connected him to this place, and that's what motivated him to help. Amina now realized that the CEO's kindness came from his own experiences and struggles, not just a desire to do good. She felt even more grateful for his support, knowing that his actions were rooted in something deep and meaningful. One evening, after weeks of receiving help from the CEO, Amina couldn't keep her thoughts to herself anymore. She needed to know why he was doing all this for her and Lila. They barely knew each other, and yet he had gone out of his way to support them. She felt grateful but at the same time a little confused. Amina decided to confront the CEO. She found him in the community center one evening, quietly working. She took a deep breath and walked up to him. Can I ask you something? Amina said, her voice a little shaky but determined. The CEO looked up and smiled kindly. Of course, Amina. What's on your mind? Amina hesitated for a moment, then blurted out, Why are you helping us? You don't know us and yet you've done so much. I need to understand why. The CEO's expression softened and he took a deep breath. For a moment, he seemed to be thinking carefully about what to say. Finally he spoke. My sister many years ago was in a similar situation to yours, he began, his voice quieter now. She was a single mother, struggling to raise her child without any support. It was hard for her. She tried to do everything on her own, but she couldn't manage it all. And when she needed help the most, no one was there for her. Amina listened quietly, feeling a deep sadness in her heart as she imagined the pain his sister must have gone through. The CEO continued, his voice growing softer. Tragically, my sister passed away, he said. She didn't get the help she needed in time. I couldn't do anything to save her, and I've carried that guilt with me ever since. Amina felt a lump in her throat, her eyes filling with tears. She couldn't imagine how painful that must have been for him. The CEO looked at her with a mixture of sadness and hope. I help people like you, he said, because I want to make sure no one else has to go through what my sister did. I want to help others who are struggling, to make up for not being able to help her. Amina was deeply moved by his story. She realized that his kindness wasn't just about generosity, it was about healing his own past. She reached out and gently placed her hand on his. Thank you for sharing this with me, she said softly. You're not just helping me, you're healing something for yourself too. The CEO gave her a small, sad smile. I don't want anyone to feel as alone as my sister did. I'll always help as much as I can. Amina and the CEO shared a quiet moment of understanding. Their connection had deepened, and Amina knew that the CEO's kindness came from a place of pain and love, one that he now used to help others. With the CEO's help, Amina's life began to take a positive turn. She started taking evening classes at the community center, determined to create a better future for herself and Lila. The classes helped her gain new skills, and with each passing day, Amina felt more hopeful about her future. For the first time in a long time, she felt like she was building something for herself, not just struggling to survive. At the same time, Lila was thriving in her new after-school program. She was making new friends and learning new things, and it brought Amina great joy to see her daughter so happy. The program gave Lila the chance to grow and explore her interests, and Amina was thankful that she didn't have to worry about where her daughter would go after school anymore. Throughout all of this, the CEO remained a quiet, supportive presence in their lives. He never asked for anything in return, and he continued to offer his help whenever it was needed. Amina felt his kindness, but she also began to notice something. Despite all the good he had done for her, there was a sense that the CEO was hiding something. There was a sadness in his eyes at times, a quietness in his demeanor that made Amina wonder what he was keeping to himself. She often caught glimpses of him looking lost in thought, as if he was weighed down by something. Even though he never spoke much about his past, Amina could tell that there was more to his story. There were moments when he seemed distant, as though something from his life was always on his mind. Amina wanted to ask him about it, but she hesitated. She didn't want to pry, especially after everything he had done for her. But at the same time she felt a connection to him. She knew that whatever was in his past had shaped who he was today, and she wanted to understand him better. For now, Amina decided to focus on her own journey. She was determined to keep moving forward, just as the CEO had helped her to do. But she couldn't shake the feeling that one day, the CEO might share his story with her, and she would learn the reason behind his quiet support. One evening, after spending more time with the CEO, Amina couldn't help but feel a deeper connection to him. She had heard his story, but she still had so many questions. There was something about the way he helped her that felt personal, and she wanted to know more. As they sat together in the community center, Amina turned to him and asked quietly, "Can I ask you something else? About your sister. What was her name?" The CEO looked at her for a moment, his expression softening. He seemed to hesitate for a moment as if deciding how much to share. Finally he spoke. "Her name was Sarah," he said, his voice gentle. "She was amazing. So strong, kind, and full of life. But life was difficult for her. She struggled every day just trying to keep it all together, especially after she became a mother." Amina listened intently, her heart aching as she imagined what Sarah must have gone through. The CEO's eyes seemed distant for a moment, as if he was remembering his sister and the life they had shared. "She did everything she could to care for her daughter," he continued. "But no one really helped her, not the way she needed. She was always alone in her struggles, and eventually, it became too much for her. I couldn't be there for her like I should have been." Amina's heart went out to him. She couldn't imagine losing someone so close, especially in such a painful way. "I'm so sorry," she said softly. "She sounds like she was an incredible person." The CEO nodded, his eyes a little sad. "She was," he said quietly. "And I failed her. That's why I help people like you. I can't change what happened to her, but I can make sure others don't feel as alone as she did." Amina sat silently for a moment, feeling the weight of his words. She had always thought of the CEO as a man of wealth and power, someone who could fix problems with his resources. But now she saw him in a different light. He wasn't just helping her out of kindness, he was also trying to heal the wounds of his own past. He was doing what he could to make up for the pain he had never been able to fix for his sister. Amina placed a hand on his arm. "You're not just helping me," she said quietly. "You're healing yourself too, aren't you?" The CEO looked at her, his eyes full of gratitude. "I hope so," he said softly. "Helping you helps me in a way I can't explain." Amina smiled, understanding now that his kindness went much deeper than just helping others. It was a way for him to find peace and make up for the pain he had carried for so long. One day the CEO received an exciting offer, a chance to work on a big project overseas. It was an opportunity he had been waiting for, something he had always wanted to do. But as he read the offer, he felt torn. He had become deeply involved in the community and in Amina's life. He had helped her and Lila in so many ways, and now he was faced with the difficult choice of leaving them behind to follow his own dreams. Amina noticed that the CEO had been quiet for a few days, and she could see the worry in his eyes. She knew something was on his mind. One evening, as they sat together at the community center, she asked gently, "Is something bothering you?" The CEO looked at her, a mixture of excitement and concern in his eyes. "I've been offered a chance to work on a big project overseas," he said. "It's something I've always wanted to do, but I'm not sure if it's the right time. I've become so involved here, especially with you and Lila. I don't want to leave when everything is going so well." Amina could sense the struggle in his voice. She understood how much he had given to the community and to her, and she also saw how much this project meant to him. She placed a hand on his arm and smiled. "You've done more than enough for us," Amina said softly. "You've helped me and Lila in ways I can't even begin to thank you for. But I want you to follow your dreams just like you've helped me follow mine. You deserve to do something for yourself now." The CEO looked at her, his expression filled with gratitude. "But what about you? What about the community center? I've been so involved here, I feel like I'm leaving something important behind." Amina gave him a reassuring smile. "The community center is in good hands. You've taught all of us so much about kindness and strength. We'll carry on what you've started here. And as for me and Lila, we'll be fine. You've given us the tools we need to keep going." The CEO looked at her, feeling a mix of emotions. He had helped change their lives, and now Amina was giving him the same support he had given her. He smiled, a little sad but also hopeful. "Thank you, Amina," he said. "You're right. It's time for me to follow my dreams. But I'll never forget what you and Lila have done for me too." Amina nodded. "I'm happy for you. Go and do what makes you happy. You've earned it." With her encouragement, the CEO made the decision to leave for the overseas project. He knew that he had made a lasting impact on Amina and her community, and that they would continue to grow with the strength and lessons he had shared. The day had come for the CEO to leave. The big project he had been offered overseas was calling, and he knew it was time to move forward. As much as he had grown attached to Amina and Lila, he understood that this opportunity was important for his future. He had made a difference in their lives, but now it was time for them to continue on their own path. On his last day, Amina approached him with a small, wrapped gift. The CEO looked at her, curious. "What's this?" he asked gently. Amina smiled, her eyes a little misty. "I want to give you something," she said, holding out the gift. "It's a small token of our gratitude." The CEO carefully unwrapped it, revealing a small framed photo. It was a picture of the three of them, sitting together during an iftar meal they had shared. Lila was smiling brightly, and Amina was holding her hand, while the CEO stood beside them. The moment had been simple but filled with warmth. Amina had captured a piece of their journey together. On the frame there were words engraved, "Thank you for being our light." The CEO felt a lump in his throat as he read the words. He had never expected anything in return for the help he had given, but this gesture from Amina and Lila touched him deeply. "You didn't have to do this," the CEO said, his voice thick with emotion. "But thank you. This means a lot to me." Amina nodded, her eyes filled with gratitude. "You've changed our lives more than you can imagine. We'll never forget you." The CEO smiled, though his heart was heavy. He had made a lasting impact on Amina and Lila, and he knew they would be okay without him. But it was still hard to say goodbye. He had grown so close to them and their connection had become something special. As he walked toward his car, ready to start the next chapter of his life, he turned back one last time to look at Amina and Lila. They were standing together, smiling at him. The CEO felt a mix of emotions, sadness for leaving them behind but also hope for the future. He knew he had done the right thing by helping them, and that his journey was far from over. With a final wave, the CEO drove away, knowing that he had made a difference in their lives, and they, in his. As the CEO drove away, Amina and Lila stood together, watching him leave. Although he was gone, his impact on their lives would never fade. Amina felt stronger than ever, empowered by the support he had given her. She had a steady job now and was taking evening classes to continue her education. Life was still challenging, but she was no longer facing it alone. With the skills she had gained, Amina was confident about building a better future for herself and Lila. Lila too was thriving. She was excelling in her school and enjoying her after-school program. The CEO's kindness had made a world of difference in her life, and she often spoke of him, calling him uncle, as though he were part of their family. The CEO may have left to follow his own dreams, but his legacy lived on in the changes he had helped create. Amina and Lila were now independent and stronger, ready to face whatever came next. The lessons of kindness, strength, and selflessness that the CEO had shared would stay with them forever. Though he was no longer physically present, the CEO's light continued to shine through the lives he had touched.